Welcome to That Boxing Writers Podcast, the weekly podcast show about boxing. I'm That Boxing Writer, Jeremy Harridges, and let's start the show. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of That Boxing Writers Podcast. I'm That Boxing Writer, Jeremy Harridges. Wow, episode 2. I hope you guys loved episode 1. I got a ton of great feedback, and this endeavor has already proven to be something that's incredibly fulfilling to me. And I hope more and more people discover this. Make sure that you guys subscribe to the podcast, whether you're watching it or listening to it. Remember, you can watch it on my YouTube channel, That Boxing Writer, or you can subscribe to it at Apple iTunes, wherever podcasts are distributed for the most part, Spotify, and so on and so on. But it's been great here in the comments. Hey, leave a review. Give me some comments. I would love to hear what you guys are thinking. If you have suggestions on people you would like to see on the podcast, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. But last week, man, fantastic. This week, I think, is just as good, if not better, if I do say so myself. And we'll get to the rundown of what's going on the podcast this week in just a minute. Just a little bit of a recap from last week's action. Lots of bouts canceled due to COVID. Unfortunately, those COVID rates are on the rise, and we're kind of hitting that area of where we were at the start of the pandemic, and that's a little scary. It started off, I got notified that Gerald Washington, who I was possibly going to be talking to for an article for Fansided, was tested positive for COVID. He was off the card. Johnny Rice was on. Lo and behold, Johnny Rice made the most of that opportunity. And I got to say, I feel bad for Michael Coffey. I know that when we watch these guys on TV, we just see them as boxers. And if you don't have a personal connection, you're sitting there going, why isn't he throwing? Why isn't he doing more? And it's very easy to critique them in the moment. But for whatever reason, Michael Coffey it just wasn't his night. He wasn't getting off. He just wasn't able to throw punches, wasn't able to catch Johnny Rice. Johnny knew exactly what he was doing, had the perfect game plan, was moving around the ring, used his reach, looked fantastic, made the most of his opportunity, and a journeyman elevates himself. And now I guarantee you that we're going to see Johnny Rice in another fight once again. So unfortunate for Michael Coffey. Congratulations to Johnny Rice, and what a performance of his lifetime for sure. I talked to both of them on the media call just days before. Obviously, both were confident in their abilities, projected that. The thing that got me during the conversation was that Johnny Rice was on standby this entire time, which meant that he had that entire time to prepare for Michael Coffey. He could watch as much tape as he wanted to, and so on and so on, where Michael Coffey didn't really have a chance to mentally adjust to Johnny Rice. So I noted that, and I actually asked that question to Johnny Rice in the media call. I didn't record that one. I was at a different location, so I didn't have all my equipment to record it. Normally, I would post that up on my YouTube channel. But I did see that it was on FightHype.com, so you can see me ask that question. Like, you might have a little advantage here. And he played it off like, maybe a little. And it proved to be a heck of a performance for him. More news, other cards that dropped off. The Fox card, there was a lot of reshuffling. We talked to Joey Spencer last week. If you didn't catch that interview, go back, listen to episode 1. Joey Spencer, a guy that you want to hear from, considering he continues to rise to the occasion as he's undefeated super welterweight. He had some weight issues. Some guys on the lower end of the card had some issues. So there were a lot of weight problems with fights on that card. Fights were canceled due to COVID. Fights for this upcoming week canceled due to COVID. So there was a lot of issues. I think last week, combining mixed martial arts with boxing, there was like somewhere between like 5 to 8 cases of COVID that wrecked fights. So there was a lot of that going on, including a fight that's scheduled for this weekend. Cody Crowley, that was supposed to be on Fox, just tested positive for COVID as well, if I'm correct on that one. So now they're searching for a replacement for as an opponent. But yeah, I mean, COVID's really wreaking havoc on boxing right now, and just combat sports in general, showing how important it is to make sure that people are still keeping social distancing guidelines, are still following some of the rules that we had, as opposed to none of the rules now, getting vaccinated, doing your due diligence to make sure that you're not spreading this thing. And it's pretty unfortunate to see that this is coming back and it was really wrecking cards right now. Well, we saw it with Tyson Fury, who we'll be talking about a little bit later on as well. Just postponed for 3 months, one of the biggest cards of the year so far, maybe the biggest, considering we're probably not going to see Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez after that news broke. Didn't even talk about that one. But yeah, those talks have broken off. By all accounts, we're not going to see Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez. The question is now, who do we see? People are talking about Dimitri Bivol as the front runner. But again, we're running out of time here. For a full fight camp, you're talking 8 weeks, and we don't have 8 weeks anymore. If we're talking September 18th, which is when they want to get Canelo in, get him in near Mexican Independence Day, try to have him perform on a weekend where we know that he's going to be a draw, that he's going to bring in a lot of fans. People are celebrating, happy in the moment. His countrymen are going to be pulling for him in a moment of solidarity in their history. But we're looking like we're going to miss that date too. And I get it. Everyone's calling him out now because everyone wants the biggest payday that they're ever going to get. Dimitri Bivol saying, hey, I'm willing to drop down to 160, but you got to let me know because I don't have much time. If you have 6 weeks, you can do it. It's going to be rushed, but you can do it. I just don't know. They might have to select a different date if you want to see Canelo. What's going to happen with that? We'll see. I don't think it's going to be Artur Beterbiev. It sounds like Dimitri Bivol's the candidate. But again, considering the timing, I just don't know if we're going to end up getting it. Last but not least, the other news from this weekend, Lee Wood on the Matchroom fight camp card from Brentwood, Essex in the UK. What a beautiful scenery. I have never been to the UK. UK fans, someday I'm going to come there and knock a bunch of pints down with you guys. And I expect you guys to come out of the woodwork and have me come out there and share a beverage with me as we talk about boxing. So one of these days I got to get out there. It was beautiful. I got to say, it's such a picturesque scene. Eddie Hearn has done a great job orchestrating that whole thing, fight camp. I know it was this invention of the pandemic, but what a beautiful setting, what a beautiful place. Gorgeous, and what a unique environment for fights. That main event was canceled. We also talked to Conor Benn last week, who didn't appear on the card. I think right as I'm getting ready to roll out episode 1, hey, Conor Benn in the main event, canceled, COVID. So unfortunate. So we didn't see Conor Benn, but the good thing was that Matchroom had a stacked card. I really, 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 really liked that card. Don't think it got enough praise for how good it really was. But the co-main event, you had Lee Wood versus Zhu Can. Zhu Can, WBA regular featherweight champion. And it ended up being a really good fight. Lee Wood was the underdog, had the fight of his life, won it. People were talking about it was a close fight. And if you look at the punch stats were close. But to me, it was so clearly Lee Wood. Like, I don't know if I've watched a fight where the punch stats were that close, yet it was so clear to me that one guy was winning. I never questioned if Lee Wood was on top. The judges had it the right way. If you go back and look at the scorecards, they had him ahead comfortably, considering, again, that the punch stats were close, but he was making all the difference. His punches were the notable ones. They were the ones making the difference. They were the ones making an impact. Lee Wood didn't leave it in the judges' hands, stopping Zhu Can in the 12th round. Congratulations to Lee Wood. He goes on, going to have a big fight in the future. Good stuff. So, I really got to say Lee Wood, Lee Wood and Johnny Rice, the week of the underdog. But, Lee Wood wasn't that surprising to me that he won. That to me, Johnny Rice was on a different level upset. Lee Wood is a guy that, only had, I think, one loss on his record, looked fantastic, really was coming into his own. So with his punching power, it doesn't surprise me that he did what he did. I really had Lee Wood as the guy that I thought was going to win that fight. I didn't make an official prediction on it, so now you're going to say, oh, sure you did, but I did, I promise you. So that's the boxing from last week's action. I'll talk a little bit about what we have this upcoming week towards the end of the show. And we have a great lineup with great guests. We have heavyweight contender Otto Wallin as our guest today. He's going to be the first up. After Otto, we have my friend and someone that I admire, the founder, CEO, president, whatever. CEO and president are probably the same thing, right? Ben Amanna, who is the person and the brains behind BOXRAW Clothing. If you don't know BOXRAW Clothing, you can see my symbol right here, my shirt. This is BOXRAW Clothing. Elite premium boxing equipment, boxing wear, all about boxing. BOXRAW, check out boxraw.com. If you're on my YouTube channel watching this, I'll actually have a code for a coupon code that'll get you guys some money off. It's also my code, so I actually get a kickback from it too. I swear to God, I am not sponsoring BOXRAW. They are not sponsoring me, but I do love their products. And hey, you get money off and I get money off if you guys, order using my code. So it's a win-win situation, all right? And I'm telling you, these are not typical cotton shirts. They are blended. They've got they're meant to be worn in the gym. You can wear them casually. There's all sorts of stuff. I have their hand wraps, their knuckle guards, head sweatband, all sorts of clothing from BOXRAW. I'm addicted to it, and I had Ben on because I love this brand. I love what they're doing. I love their growth. And I think you're going to be really taken with his interview. So get ready for that one. And last but not least, I was able to get another big name boxer, someone who's really on the rise, Ty Tomlin. Really excited to have him on. If you don't know who he is, he just signed with DiBella and DiBella Entertainment several months ago. Is making waves. Someone that I think is going to be something. 11-0, 7 KOs out of Chatham County. Same area as Caleb Plant. They know each other. and there's a connection there. So we'll talk about that as well. So I was grateful to get an extra guest in there. So this is a real stacked episode, and I'm really excited about it. Before we get to our first guest, Otto Wallin, there is something out there that I want to talk about. And for those of you that have been following my work, whether it's fan-sided or enjoy the YouTube channel or whatever it is, follow me on social media. I don't like controversy. I don't like, I try to stay very reserved. Let's put it that way. My whole life is, hey, no drama, be happy, positive vibes, karma, right? Good karma. That's kind of my mantra. And so when I see people engaging on social media and going off and going crazy, I try to stay out of it. But there was something that I saw that bothered me and I thought deserved to be said. I'm clicking through my timeline on Twitter, and I come across a tweet that just took me off guard. Fortunately, the people I follow tend to be very considerate, good-natured people, positive people. And I like to surround myself with positivity. And I was scrolling around, and someone had a quote tweet, and they were quoting this former professional athlete and ripping him for his comments, which made me feel really good about the person that did that. But it also brought this comment to attention to me, and I just can't look past it, and I have to say something about it. And I'm not going to go crazy on this guy. And, a lot of people had a very visceral reaction to his comments, and I understand why. He struck a nerve. He said some really insensitive things, and people reacted harshly. Me, I just was sad. I was just sad that here you have this person who's obviously a gifted athlete that has the ability to impact others, and this is how he's choosing to use his platform. It made me sad more than anything. Was there anger in there? Sure. But I try to take a couple deep breaths, keep the anger out of there. I don't like ad hominem attacks. I don't like to take personal shots. I like to just deal with the things that are there rather than taking low blows and just throwing out, biting comments. But I needed to touch on this one, and it does relate to boxing, so bear with me here. The athlete Tim Crowder, who apparently has an exercise facility of some sort where he trains athletes and things of that nature. And I didn't know who Tim Crowder was. I had no idea who he was. And then I saw this incredibly disturbing tweet from him that he put out there that he doesn't even realize how much damage he's doing to people. And I have to speak out on it. I spoke out on it on social media. I said something to him, and a lot of people, liked it and were on board with what I had to say. But I thought it was something that we need to talk about, especially in an era right now where mental health is finally getting attention, is something that's so important, is causing a lot of damage, and people need help. And Tim's not helping. So Tim Crowder was a college athlete at University of Texas. He played 5 seasons in the NFL, and now he's a strength and conditioning coach, private strength and conditioning coach. Works with high school athletes. That's the part that's got me. He works with kids. And I find that highly disturbing considering what he said in his tweet. Here's his tweet. Tim Crowder, if anyone is suffering from depression, repeat after me. Quote, I am a soft, weak-minded person, and I need to find a solution because depression is only a word that another excuse maker made up who was weak-minded like me, unquote. Don't take me out of context. Those aren't my words. Those are Tim Crowder's words. There's the tweet up on the screen. And it was shocking to me. Like, what? Repeat after me. I was really struck by that. Someone that's saying that depression isn't something that's real. It's fake. It's an excuse. Now, it got a lot of attention, a lot of negative attention, which good. I'm glad people spoke out on it. A lot of people got very personal with Tim. And by all means, please let Tim know how you feel about his comments about depression and how damaging they are. I encourage you not to strike out and lash out at Tim, but offer a constructive word of advice to him, as I did, that, hey, you're missing the point here, man, and you're way, way off. I told him he was wrong, and really needs to do something about his lack of humanity, consideration, and empathy. Now, he tried to backtrack a little bit, of course, because that's what happens when people say something ridiculous. He said, well, I dealt with depression until I stopped believing in it. And a lot of people had a lot of great responses to that one. Stop believing in it. Hey, if Tim had depression at some point and he got over it because he was able to deal with it on his own, good for him. I don't want anyone to deal with depression, and depression is 100% real. It's not just a state of mind. It's something that's in the mind. It's something that's in the body, and people deal with it and have problems with it for all sorts of different reasons. It can be a byproduct of another mental health issue. It can be the byproduct of things going on in our personal lives, or a combination of everything. There is no absolute when it comes to mental health or when it comes to depression. And unfortunately with Tim, he sees things as this way or that way. There's only 2 answers. You either have it or you don't. He doesn't look at the shades of gray that are there, that every person's situation is different. He only sees things from his perspective. So when I said that he lacks empathy, I wasn't saying that as a personal attack. I was saying that as, hey, I think this is a fact. You lack empathy and you lack humanity because you have the inability to see life from other people's perspective. You only have the ability to see things your way. And of course, as I looked through Tim's timeline a little bit, I got a pretty good read on that being the fact. He had a lot of comments echoing that one, had a lot of other comments attacking people. The negativity from his timeline alone tells you what kind of person he is. He gets joy from putting other people down, and that's what he thinks boosts him up. He doesn't feel like he can get success unless someone else is failing. He views life as a competition. And, I don't know the meaning of life, but I can tell you that's not it. If you're looking at life as a constant competition, that it's you versus the world, or you versus this person, you versus that person, then you're missing it. You're missing it. Life isn't a competition. Are there competitive moments? Sure. But your goal in life is to do the best for you and to have the best impact you can on the people that surround you and that love you. That's it. It's not a competition. And unfortunately, this I think sometimes in our society we get a little bit too over infatuated with sports and athletics to the point where we embody it fully. Tim was fortunate enough to make a living playing a game. And that's what football is. It's a game. It's over now, and he trains athletes. But he still has that mentality that that game is life. And we have that saying, life's a game. I'm thinking Catcher in the Rye now. It's not. It's not. That's a false construct that you're putting yourself in. You're making a false competition. You're making a competition. Who are you competing with? You competing with other strength and conditioning coaches or what? I mean, come on. You're not going to be the only strength and conditioning coach in the world. Yes, there's a winner and loser in football, but you're going to do both, and I'm sure Tim won and lost. But when it comes down to it, you look at, hey, it's just about the best that I can do, and there's always going to be somebody better. But to sit here and say that depression is not real, but then he says, I had it. Well, obviously it's real then. He just was able to overcome it on his own, and good for him. I want people to be able to overcome it on their own. But guess what? Everybody's got a different situation. If you've ever dealt with depression, and I have, and I've dealt with general anxiety disorder and things of that nature, I'm not afraid to talk about it. Sometimes you need help. You need someone. Depression is a rabbit hole, and you can fall further and further and further, and sometimes we need someone to lend a hand and help us out of that dark place. There's always someone there that's willing to help, but a lot of us don't see that. Or a lot of us are afraid to reach out because of stigmas and things of that nature. And if we did say something about it publicly, I think people would be surprised at how many hands are there to try to help them out of that rabbit hole. But it can be such a crushing wave that feeling of hopelessness takes over. And that's where the damage is done. Fortunately, I've had great people in my life that have helped me out of my rabbit hole. And I try to be a person that extends a hand and helps others out of that rabbit hole. Tim, you're not doing it, man. Your comments here are pushing people further into that hole of depression. You're not helping anybody with those comments. What worked for you doesn't work or isn't a one simple fix for everybody else. What you're doing is you're pushing and punching people further into depression. You're not helping them out of it by telling them that it's not real. To sit there, if anyone's suffering from depression, you think it's helping them to call them soft and weak-minded? How is that helping them? Is berating someone that's dealing with depression helping them? What effect do you think that's going to do with someone with depression? Oh, you're depressed? You're weak. You're soft. You are causing the damage. You're furthering the damage. You aren't helping. And I saw that Tim works with 7-on-7 young high school athletes, maybe even some younger than high school. And he thinks that he's helping them out by berating them and insulting them, that he can push the right buttons to get them to react. And you know what? That might work with some athletes, but it's not going to work with a lot of others. And when you're dealing with young kids, you are going to cause damage by hurting their self-esteem, by hurting their mindset. It's not about being soft or weak. It's about being human, and we're all vulnerable. And the way this comes back to boxing is that I've seen this with boxers too. We see these boxers as titans. There's this machismo factor in boxing. It's mano y mano, my will versus your will, fists, fighting. But there's also a humanity and an empathy within boxing. We can empathize with someone that's in a bad situation in the ring. We can empathize with someone that loses a fight. We can empathize with people that are going through something. And if you look at some of the best boxers in the world, everybody is going through something. And there are a lot of brave boxers out there that are willing to take a stand and say, you know what? I've dealt with depression, I've dealt with mental health issues, and I couldn't solve it on my own, and I needed help. You know, I was very critical of Tyson Fury because of the COVID thing and the way he handled it. And here's the thing. I don't see things as right or wrong, this side or that side, in absolutes. I don't see things in absolutes. There are shades of gray. And I can say I don't like what Tyson Fury did with his COVID diagnosis. I don't like him running around 8 days after being diagnosed. I don't care if his doctor cleared him. I don't like it. I thought his actions were, I thought he took the wrong course of action. He hurt a lot of boxers on that card financially and otherwise and wasted a lot of people's time. I don't like that. But I can also look at other things he's done and say, you know what? I do like this. And one of the things I like Tyson Fury for is his stand and his promotion of mental health and to help people that might be having mental health problems, depression, bipolar disorder, things of that nature, and say, hey, I went through it. I was at the lowest low and I got through it, but I needed help. The WBC champion of the world, one-time unified heavyweight champion of the world, needed help to deal with his bipolar disorder and his depression. He had depression. Maybe the bipolar disorder extended the depression or vice versa. I don't know. Everybody's got a different situation. There's not a quick fix or a one size fits when it comes to mental health. And Tim needs to know that. And Tim needs to know better because he's been on this earth long enough to know better, but he doesn't care because he only sees things from his perspective because he lacks humanity and he can't empathize with other people. Look through his timeline. He's retweeting Candace Owens' bullying comments towards transgender people. Most of the comments on his timeline are negative, knocking other people. He talks about 99% of the world are complainers and it's us 1%ers that rise above the rest. Where is he coming up with these stats? 99% of 1%. Whoever said he was 1% of anything? 99% of what? What are we talking about? There's 99% of the world that complains, but you're that 1% that doesn't? I don't know, Tim. Looking through your timeline, it sure seems like you do a whole lot of complaining. In fact, I'd say most of what you do is complain. It's not positive. You want to help people. You work with young people, lend a hand and try to help them. Try to show a little love and compassion. Your bullying tactics of calling people soft and weak is not going to get them out of depression. You're going to push someone in depression, further into depression, and you're going to do a lot of damage to young people's lives. Your quote, your tweet, probably damaged a lot of people's lives. Words have power, Tim, and your words probably just damaged a lot of people. You don't know the effect that your tweet had on a lot of people, and I'm here to say, ignore him, delete, comment, tell him he's wrong. I'm not saying go out and be verbally abusive to the guy. I'm just saying, hey, no, you're wrong. And there are a lot of people that don't think like you because you're wrong. Depression is real. And there are a lot of people that need to know that there is help out there. But because of mental illness, because of the grips of depression, they can't see that. I'm a high school teacher. I have a lot of students that deal with mental health problems, and I've had students that weren't able to see that they were loved and had a lot of people out there that were willing to help them. I try to be a positive force in my students' lives and let them know, hey, there's no assignment, there's no homework assignment, there's no lesson here that's so big that your mental health doesn't come first. That's number one. If something's not right, let me know and I want to help you. Tim, you work with young people and you really shouldn't. Instead of calling them soft and weak-minded, you should be letting them know, hey, I care about you. If you need something and you need to talk or you need help, let me know because I'm there to help you. I will help pull you up. Calling them soft and weak-minded and telling them that their depression is fake is going to break them. I'm sorry. I have 2 kids, and there's no way in the world I'd let either of them work with you. I hope you find some clarity and some perspective. I hope my words make some bit of difference. Although knowing from Tim, from what I'm reading here, he doesn't ever think he's wrong. In fact, he says, I don't apologize for anything ever. Tim, you're not perfect. I know this because nobody is. We all do things that we regret at some point. We all make mistakes. We all get blinded or clouded by our own vision and don't take into account others. But to be a self-reflective human is to say, hey, I did something wrong. I'm sorry. You should be saying, I'm sorry, Tim. It's unfortunate that you can't see that. So, a little bit off on a tangent there, but something that I felt needed to be said. And like I said, Tyson Fury is just one example. I've talked about mental health with Xander Zayas, who's doing something to help people and is extending a hand and telling people, all people, fellow boxers, young people, mental health is something that's important. It's real. It's a problem. I'm here to help you. I've talked to Adrian Broner in public on media calls about it, and he's told me, man, personal life took over. I was really in a bad place. I can't tell you how many boxers I've talked to that have said I'm in a bad place and I needed help to get out of it. Omar Figueroa, many others. There's nothing weak in saying that I need help or that I'm depressed and I need someone there to help pick me up. That's what friends, that's what family are supposed to do, to pick us up. So yeah, Tim, you're wrong. Like I said, people, let Tim know that he's wrong in a non-abusive way, because that doesn't help anybody. But something that I felt needed to be said, got it off my chest. Positive. Let's think positive here. So next guest I have is Otto Wallin. Otto obviously fought Tyson Fury, opened up a 47-stitch gash on his eye, put on a great performance, put his name on the map with that performance. He's rolling along. Let's hear what's going on with Otto, and let's get his perspective on boxing and the heavyweight division. Here's my interview with Otto Wallin. Hello, fight fans. I'm here with heavyweight Otto Wallin. Otto, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been precisely about 11 months since we last talked. It was right before the Kaufman bout. And I know in 11 months' time, a lot can change. Obviously, we were still kind of in the main heart of the pandemic at that point. How much in your life has changed over the last 11 months?
I think that things are slowly but surely getting better here in New York, where I am. I'm vaccinated. My trainer's vaccinated. My family's vaccinated. The restrictions are better now, but it seems like some restrictions might come back, like the mask use and stuff, but hopefully things will keep getting better. My life, is pretty basic. So, even without the pandemic, I would pretty much just be training all the time and going back and forth to the gym. So that's pretty much what I'm doing anyways. Now, comparing August to now, it has gotten better. Yeah, I mean, I'll be able to go out more, grab some dinner with friends and my girlfriend, and hang out a little bit more than we was back in August.
I know that at that point, before that Kaufman fight, and it was months before, but there was some adversity that you had gone through. I think there was a foot fracture at one point. There was COVID that you went through. Um, did you feel the effects of any of those things in either your Kaufman fight or the Brazil fight?
Not from COVID. COVID was very light for me. It was like a normal light flu for me, so it wasn't very hard.
Hmm.
My foot, we had to be careful before the Kaufman fight with training because I had a stress fracture. So when you have that, there's a limit how hard you can train, how much you can put on your foot, and we had to find that balance. So we had to be very careful not to re-fracture it. But so before that fight, I didn't do any heavy bag and stuff, but I was able to spar and all of that stuff. So I think it was good, but now it's even better. So now we know we've tested the foot, and I mean I'm doing heavy bag all the time and have no issues with it, and sparring I'm doing that also. So we're in a good place now.
So looking at um, your last fight against Dominic Brazil, uh, goes 12 rounds. You've been putting on really good names on your resume. Your last three opponents, Fury, Kaufman, Brazil. What were some of the biggest things you took away from that fight with Dominic Brazil?
I think that was good for me to go 12 rounds again, and I think that I got a good at it too. So I think that it helps me improve, and I get some experience. And Brazil, a good name and a tough guy, and he pushed me for 12 rounds, which was good. So I think there's a lot to take from that. I feel like I gotta, like I said, improve going 12 rounds and to be able to be sharp for all 12 rounds.
You're unique because you're a southpaw heavyweight, and you don't typically see a lot of guys as big as you that are heavyweights, which probably makes you a pretty hot commodity as far as if anyone's going in against the southpaw, like, hey, let's get some training with Otto. I mean, he's the best southpaw around. Um, have you been doing any training camps with other fighters? Have you been doing sparring with any other guys? How's that been working out?
Lately, I have not, but in the past, I mean, I sparred Joshua Cobra Pulev before my fight with uh, Brazil. I sparred Adam Komnatsky, Zhang Chile, and different guys. And then there's a lot of different guys that I spar here in New York, and that's the luxury of being here. But I haven't really been into any other camps right now. But I was contacted last week by Joshua's camp. Uh, they asked if I could come over again, and I said yes. But then I haven't heard back. But that would be nice, and hopefully we can make that happen.
Hmm. Yeah, he's someone that you've had a wealth of experience. We've talked about your amateur experience with him, two fights in the amateurs and things of that nature. Out of all the guys that you've worked with as far as training, has he been someone that maybe helps you take it to the next level more than some of the other guys that you've worked with?
Uh, I think everybody has something to offer, but I would say that Joshua is the best guy I've sparred. So there's a lot to learn from that, and nice to be around the champion like that, and you learn a lot from it. And
Hmm.
I was able to spend. I mean, when I was there sparring with him, I was there for almost 2 months, and we sparred a lot, maybe 150 rounds or something. So it's a lot of experience to take from that, and a lot of good things. But I feel like I said, here in New York, I get so much different sparring and different styles and different sizes. So that's really good. I think that's helping develop me a lot, because that was always hard to come about in Sweden and in Denmark where I was living before.
Yeah, I know that, in sparring, it's kind of the unwritten rule that what happens in sparring stays in sparring. You don't talk about it. And the reason I kind of brought it up is, I mean, you've sparred against some incredible boxers. Malik Scott, Deontay Wilder's primary trainer at this point, was on the PBC podcast and was talking about rumors he'd heard from Tyson Fury's camp. Um, how much of those rumors um, do people tend to trust, or how much of it is just purely rumors, would you say?
I mean, I usually take it as rumors. I mean, there might be some truth to it, but uh, I have no idea. I would think that it's mostly rumors, to be honest. People
Hmm.
like to talk, and there's always two sides of the story. Let's say you have a guy let's say Joshua, he might have 3 sparring partners and he might go 12 rounds of sparring, and you have a guy coming in between round 9 and he's already tired, so and the sparring partner is fresh. So this is going to be a lot easier for him. But if he goes in there and go 12 rounds with him, it's a different story.
Obviously, sparring is part of training. You're working hard. You're hitting each other. I would think that it's part of it that, yeah, people get hurt during sparring.
Yeah, I mean, it's boxing. It's a contact sport. You got to get hit. That's how it is. But you're trying to minimize that, of course. And but like I said, I think it's a big factor when you have fresh guys coming in and to help somebody, and they come in and the guy is already tired. So I mean, of course, it's going to be easier for them. It's not like they go 12 rounds like he's doing.
Mm-hmm. Focusing on you and your career, I've been reading a lot of stuff about Andy Ruiz's name coming up as kind of a prime target for you. Is what makes Andy Ruiz such an appealing candidate for your next fight, do you think?
That's mostly my promoter that's been talking about Ruiz. I don't know honestly if there's any truth to it or not, but I think that Ruiz, he's one of the top guys. He beat Joshua. He had a great fight there. I mean, the rematch wasn't great, and I think his fight with Arreola was, pretty tough fight. I think the Arreola was better than what I thought. I thought that Andy was going to knock him out, but it might take some time for him to adjust to new training and everything with Reynoso. At the same time, I think Andy has been in boxing, almost his whole life. So you gotta wonder too, like if somebody can really improve that much, just from changing trainers. And if you've been in boxing your whole life, you probably already know a lot. So I wonder how much new stuff he can teach himself. Maybe he can be more disciplined, but that might be it.
Mm-hmm. Obviously there's a lot of the top names. I know last time we talked, obviously everybody would love a shot against, Joshua, Wilder, Fury, those guys. They're tied up right now. If not Andy Ruiz, are there any other fighters that you could see yourself stepping into the ring with, or that you think would be good opponents for you?
I mean, a guy I've been pushing is Charles Martin. I'm fighting on Showtime, and they have a good connection with the PBC. So I've been told right now it's going to be a PBC fighter, and most of those guys are busy or not available. Charles Martin has been available, so we've been pushing that, but it seems like he doesn't want to fight.
Mm-hmm. As far as trying to nail down an opponent and kind of the business of boxing, we've seen fights fall through. Obviously, we've seen arbitration between Wilder and Fury. How hard is it, or how frustrating is it when you think you have a fight lined up and it kind of falls apart? Is that something that you just have to get used to?
Yeah, I mean, I've had to get used to it the tough way. I had 2019, I had almost 3 fights canceled, but then finally I got Fury. So, just sometimes you just gotta bite down and go through it. It happens. It's very frustrating, but you gotta keep working, because at some point the fight all gonna come. So you gotta make sure you're ready then.
As far as when we might be able to see you in the ring next, you kind of talked about a Showtime fight, maybe against probably a PBC fighter. Has there been dates kicked around as far as when we can anticipate maybe seeing Otto Wallin back in the ring?
No, unfortunately, I haven't heard anything. A couple months back, I thought that I was gonna fight in July, but nothing has come through. So it's a little frustrating, but we just gotta keep doing my job.
And it seems like the heavyweight division right now has been kind of frustrating. There hasn't been a whole bunch of marquee heavyweight fights. I know we've got one this weekend between Michael Coffey and now Jonathan Rice. We're starting to see COVID play more of a role once again. I mean, right now in the last couple of days, Gerald Washington tested positive, and now this morning I got the news that Conor Benn tested positive. When you see things like that, are you kind of like, oh no, like we got another thing throwing a wrench in all this?
Yeah. I mean, there's big fights that just keeps getting rescheduled because of it. Lopez, Fury, Conor Benn, Gerald Washington. it's very unfortunate. I mean, it seems like there's more now than ever in boxing. Uh, yeah, I don't know. The only thing I know that, I mean, I'm vaccinated. My team is vaccinated, so we try to do it that way and try to get past this.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people were caught off guard with the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder cancellation again because of the drama there. When you're a fighter, and I'm not saying you, but kind of putting yourself in that position on the undercard, and you've been training for 8 weeks at least for a fight, and then you get told the fight's off, get ready for another 3 months, and you got to do it all over again. I mean, what a crazy situation is that, and how do you mentally get prepared in that kind of situation?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. It sucks, but it's, it is what it is. Kind of, you just gotta, like I said, bite down, keep training, keep working, and be ready when the fight do come. I always try to look at it. Oh, fine. I mean, I got more time, and they got time to get better, and that's how I try to see it. But it can be very frustrating, that's for sure.
You've been in the ring with a lot of guys that are going to be fighting, within the coming months. Um, Obviously, Joshua versus Usyk. Who do you like in that fight? Who do you think has the edge?
I think Joshua has the edge. I think that Usyk was a great cruiserweight and undisputed champion. He hasn't been that great at heavyweight yet. He had that fight with Witherspoon and then Chisora, which was, Chisora fight was kind of tough. I would think that Joshua is too big and too strong for him, but I don't think it's gonna get easy. But I think eventually that Joshua might be able to break him down and stop him later on, I think.
You gifted Tyson Fury 47 stitches above his eye. Um, Considering that experience, and obviously he came back and fought Wilder very well in the second fight. With all the stuff that's going on now, is he kind of a wild card in the trilogy fight, or do you think that he's going to take Wilder regardless?
I think that Wilder, of course, has a puncher's chance. He's a huge puncher, so anything could happen. But I still see Fury winning that fight. And I'm not that sure that he's gonna stop him again, but I think that he's gonna beat him. And I just gotta wonder how much can you really improve when you keep coming up with excuses and stuff. And I mean, I even saw Wilder again saying, "Oh, don't be." What did he say? He said that he was sure that Fury is gonna try cheating again. One of his excuses. Still making excuses even before the fight now, I think is crazy. And I mean, if he really thought that he cheated, then I would like to ask Wilder, "Oh, what are you gonna do this time to make sure it doesn't happen?" Because I mean, you already had a trainer in there watching him when he was wrapping his hands and putting on his gloves, and you had a commissioner and everything. So I mean, what extra stuff are you gonna be implying now to make sure it doesn't happen? I would be interested to hear that.
Obviously, we hope that you have a fight before October, at least something set by October. But looking at those three again, if you had a chance to fight either Wilder, Joshua, or Fury, who would be your ideal person to fight? Who would you pick out of those three to fight?
Right now, it would be Joshua or Fury because of the titles. I mean, that's my dream fight for the heavyweight title. So it'll be one of them.
Is there one that you lean more towards? Because I mean, there's got to be two huge motivations: the fact that you came really close against Fury, and the fact that you have a history with Joshua in those two amateur fights in the past. Does one of those motivate you more than the other?
I can't really tell. I just wanna get my hands on a belt, to be honest. But yeah, I had two good fights with Josh and amateurs. Unfortunately, I lost two decisions, but it was really good fights. And then Fury, I had that fight in the pros. So there's some, I don't know if I call it bad blood, but I really want to get back in there with those guys and try to redeem myself.
Last question from me. Looking at the heavyweight division and the fighters that have been coming around, obviously this is your profession. Are there any up and coming heavyweights that you kind of take a look at and say, okay, that guy could be something soon, or that guy could be a threat to me down the road? Are there any that you kind of like, highlighted out there?
I think right now, I mean, I think that Joe Joyce is a good guy. I mean, he's older, of course, but he's coming up. I think that he's a threat to anybody. I think that big guy and good engine.
Mhm.
Um, we see what happens when he face a Josh or somebody that can really punch, because
Mhm.
he's able. He's getting hit a lot, but other than that, I think even Dubois that lost to Joyce. I mean, he's what 21 or 22,
Mhm.
something like that, and I mean he's a good fighter. I think that he'll be able to be something. I haven't watched what's his name, Jared Anderson
Mhm.
too much, but there's a lot of hype around him. I think that those three might be the guys. You got any
Mhm.
other suggestions?
I was actually going to say Jared. Well, Jared Anderson's one of the ones that was rumored to have hurt Tyson Fury in sparring. So, I also talking about the older fighters. I think it's kind of interesting too. A guy like Michael Coffey who's fighting this weekend. Not a lot of people know him, but he's an older guy, very similar kind of to Joyce in terms of someone that started late and starting to make noise with their power. Kind of interesting to see what he can do. I mean, he knocked out an undefeated Darmani Rock, who had a good amateur background in the United States. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens there. I was hoping to see him against Gerald Washington, but
Yeah.
when that gets blown up, only other person I'd say is Bakhmadir Jalalov, the from Uzbekistan, who's fighting in the Olympics right now. Kind of interests me.
Okay.
So
Is there a
um,
pro also?
Yeah, it's weird. He's pro, but he's been fighting amateur because of the rules with
Yeah.
how everything works out. So he was actually able to fight amateur fights and pro fights at the same time. I want to say he's
Okay.
got like at least 9 pro fights under his belt already.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
so and anytime you got someone like that, but those are kind of the guys I'm keeping my eye on. But regardless, I hope to see you in the ring sometime soon. It'd be great if one of those names that we just went through
Yeah.
decided to fight you, and hopefully that can get done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree. I really, I just want to get back in there now. So much fun go to training when you have a date. So hopefully it comes around.
100%. Otto, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your expertise with us. It's always appreciated. I think Otto Wallin definitely is someone that you should be paying attention to in the heavyweight division. Great skills, still young, 30 years old, still in his prime. Let's see what Otto can do. Hope to hear for his next fight upcoming soon. Next guest is Ben Amanna. You may not know Ben, but you probably do know his brand, BOXRAW. I'm sporting it right now. BOXRAW is a brand dedicated to boxing, made from him as an amateur boxer. He had this great spark of ingenuity that, hey, I want to make a clothing brand that is made entirely for boxers. He felt like the other brands were not necessarily vibing one-on-one with boxers, so he wanted to get to the raw essence of a fighter, that training, that in the gym time. That's what he wanted to embody with his brand. It is taken off. He's got Gervonta Davis, Alexander Usyk, Errol Spence, so many other guys sporting his brand, Charlo twins. I mean, and just doing it not because they're paid. He doesn't do endorsement deals. That's the other thing. He does collaborations from time to time, but a lot of times people are just rocking it because they like what they see and they like the vibe. Um, I'm telling you, it is a special brand. They're special clothes. They are not your run-of-the-mill cotton shirts. I'm telling you, these have a whole different feel. You will love their product. But I'm going to bring on Ben to have him talk about his product, BOXRAW. Here's Ben Amanna. Very happy to have the founder, CEO, owner of BOXRAW Apparel with me. Ben, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, Jeremy. Thank you for having me on, man. Thank you for having me on. Excited to talk some shop.
Oh, for sure. Well, the last time we talked, I looked this up and I looked at my last interview with you was back in, it was 9 months ago. So thinking back all that time, 9 months ago, how much has changed for BOXRAW?
Hey, where do I even start, man? I feel like I've developed as an individual enormous amount. The team's exploded. How many staff do we have when we spoke last?
Um,
Remember?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my. I know that you had multiple facilities and you were making a push into some other countries. I think it was Ireland at the time.
Yeah. I mean, what I can tell, I know at the start of the first lockdown, I think we had 16 employees. I think
Mhm.
by the end of the second one, we had 32. We went out at 48. So we've gone from 16 at the start of last year to now 48. A year and a half later. So, mate, so much has changed. Like, well, where do I even start? Like, how the whole business runs has changed. How I spend my time has changed. What the team are working on has changed. Mate, it's
Well, and I can see it because, I see more athletes wearing your stuff. I see more people repping it. It's pretty crazy to see everything that goes behind the scenes. And what I like so much about your presence and the brand's presence on social media is that it details the progress of your brand. I can't remember what I saw. It was some video or maybe it was a posting, but it was about the evolution of the BOXRAW logo, which I'm sporting right here.
oh yeah. I thought that was on my personal Instagram, wasn't it? I think a couple of weeks ago,
Mhm.
or on LinkedIn. I'm on both actually, but yeah, mate, that was you know what it is. Before, I think when we last spoke, we were talking about why I don't put myself out there, and I was completely against it. Right, I was always like, listen, if you like the brand, then you're gonna like me, but I don't want people judging me and then not liking the brand.
Mhm.
But I was forced at the start of this year to start putting more content out there and start telling more of the sort of boxer story. Um, so it's just been like organic stuff, man. Like, so somebody asked me the other day, how do you come up with the strike logo? I was like, there isn't like an easy way for me to explain that to you, in a short conversation, but maybe I'll just make a post about it. Yeah, long process, man.
I never really thought about that. Just seeing something that seems like, oh, there's a logo, but how did it come into formation? What were the ideas behind it? I mean, you really spent a lot of time and a lot of thought into it. And I think that's kind of embodies your brand that it means something more than just a clothing brand. As you said in your mission statement, you want it to be boxing. And I think your brand and the evolution of that embodies it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was. It's nice you picked up on that, man, because I think before I didn't really care what people thought. Right, I was just like, I'd do it, but part of me was always just a little bit annoyed that no one really understands the rationale, and the thought that's gone into it. It's not so much about the effort. I don't care about the credit for the effort that's gone into it, right? But when you
Mhm.
understand the meaning, it means a little bit more.
Well, and I think that one of the reasons that your company is so interesting is the way that it's grown in such a short amount of time. You're even talking about the growth in just 8 months' time, but you really caught on to something with an organic way of marketing your product, just kind of like building up the social media presence where you built it up to 20,000 before you even launched, and then and so on and so on and so on. I think you're up to like 387,000 followers on Instagram 9 months ago. You've grown 90,000 followers since we've talked in that time. Um, but just how important has been navigating that social media space for the success of your company?
You know what? Like, it's funny. You're very congratulatory around the social media growth we've had. We're all incredibly depressed over here about it. Like, our goals have been much more ambitious, than to grow 90,000 in a year.
Mhm.
Even hearing that, I'm just like, God, so far away from my goal. Like, the goal is to try and get to 500,000 by the end of the year. And it's hard because the approach we take is that while we've got that KPI to try and hit that target,
Mhm.
we're so we're so firm on how we do that, right? So we have three principles, right? You need to inspire, motivate. Sorry, you need to inspire, educate, or empower.
Mhm.
So any post you put out, it always needs to inspire somebody, educate somebody about the sport of boxing, or empower them to go and do something. So it's harder to grow the Instagram when you're not going after this, TikTok esque style of content, and you're actually trying
Mhm.
to like create a brand of legacy that actually stands for something. So, social is important to us because we're complete direct to consumer. We don't sell into retail. We don't have any, retail stores about, on our own accord. So, majority of the growth comes from social media awareness. So it's important to us, right? It's a big goal for us to try and get those followers. But it's more important to us how we go about doing that.
Mhm. Looking at the fighters that have jumped on board, and we talked about this a lot last time, but I thought it was really cool, and again, connecting it to kind of that social media buzz that's out there. The boxers that have come on board with your brand, again, you kind of talked about it last time that you don't do endorsement deals. That there are some collaborations that you have, but they're not the typical endorsement model. but just in general, people in around boxing sporting your gear, do they naturally come across it, or is it something where you kind of ship them a shirt or some apparel and say, hey, here's something for you, why don't you check it out? How does that work in how they come to the brand?
Yeah, it used to be when we first started out, right? Like we had no audience. We had
Hmm.
20,000 when we first started out. So it was very much a case of us getting into their DMs, telling them about the brand. Can we send you some products? Once we sent them the products, the rest is history. They're sold. Now
Hmm.
we're a bit more fortunate where we've got a bigger presence, and we've got a large enough reach now whereby some of these big boxes you see wearing are actually customers of the brand. So it's still very much mixed, right? I mean, the boxing market is small, so
Hmm.
we don't typically do much seeding now, to boxers because we've already, we've hit pretty much everyone we've tried to hit. Um, so to start with a lot of seeding, now it's very much organic. So now the boxers you see wearing it, the majority of them will be paying for it.
Are you surprised sometimes if you're maybe going through Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is, and you maybe see a boxer wearing your stuff, and you're like, oh, wait a second, that's my shirt. Are there some of those surprises that occur?
Yeah, it happens all the time, man. It happens, especially some of the bigger names. We're like, oh, did we send that? And then I'll speak to the team, partnership team, like, we sent gear to this guy, and it's like, no, we haven't. They must have just bought it, and then we'll check the order history and oh, they're a customer. So it's nice, it's nice getting that. I think now, without sounding cocky or ungrateful, now it's just like this is where we are. This is where we
Hmm.
belong. Our business model. We're here to own the entire space of boxing. So while sometimes it might be a little bit surprising, we're like, okay, we're on track. And
Hmm.
we don't really get, you know. I often try and preach to the team. We seldom rest on our laurels. So we rarely talk about what got us to this point. We celebrate the wins for sure, but we're so fixated on where we want to get to, and we're so far away from where we want to be. So
Hmm.
it doesn't get to me. You know.
I know that now that you've got this momentum, there are big boxers wearing your stuff, whether it's Gervonta Davis, Charlo brothers. I've seen both of them wearing your clothing, and so many other guys too. When you first start out and you're kind of trying to get these fighters to discover your brand, what do you think it is that draws them to the brand? Is it the fashion? Is it the feel? I know I can say from my perspective, it's not like just even the shirt that I'm wearing now, it's not just like a regular cotton shirt, that there's a blend. The materials are great. I can wear this casually or I can work out in it. I'm actually wearing your Johnson shorts right now as well. So I've got those
Ah,
going on.
yeah.
So I'm a really
Yeah,
big fan of it. So I know what draws me into it, but what do you think appealed to them the most when you're just trying to start off?
it's a really good question, In fact, I already know because in the very beginning, right, we just launched with what I thought was sportswear, but the rest of the boxes didn't appreciate it as sportswear. So, so,
Hmm.
so I sent them all this gear for training, and I'd be like, oh, well, we've just developed this training gear. The thing is, when we started out, it was easy, right? Because Instagram in the boxing world wasn't as big. So the
Hmm.
boxes that we work with now, we're on, double digit in the thousands, of followers, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 at top. So trying to get in touch with them was really easy. Anyway, but I did all this round of seeding to start with. I hear you got some training gear. And I'd see them in training and I'd be like, oh, you're not wearing the box shorts. Like, but you told me you really liked it. I was like, is there anything wrong with it? So no, Ben, it's not that we don't like it. It's just that the quality is too good and I don't want to ruin it when I'm training. So they all just wore it on the street and it was like a bit, I was like, shit, I mean, this is great feedback, but how the hell am I going to market this now? So it kind of turned into more of a lifestyle brand. So it was never intentional. I never set out I set out to create quality product, right? But I never knew that it was going to be that much of a differentiator compared to other brands. To me, I was just like, any supplier we spoke to was like, we have to one up everybody, you know?
Hmm.
But I never knew that other people would appreciate that. That was just the mindset that I had, is that anything we do, we create to the best of our ability. We don't worry too much about profits and margins. Let's just create the best product possible, build the brand, build the exposure, the customer base, and we can worry about the margins later on. So to start with, it was definitely the quality. Now it's probably a combination of everything because our style has definitely changed, especially now we've got a logo. We're able to do more things with it.
Hmm. I was noticing too that, I mean, you don't just go after the super big names. You also start off with boxers that are amateurs. You start off with boxers that are maybe kind of just getting off the ground. Obviously, someone that's kind of gotten your attention. And when I say that, I mean, um, obviously, again, it's not an endorsement deal, but they're wearing your brand. I was just talking to the first podcast episode featured an interview with Joey Spencer, and I see Joey Spencer's on your Instagram timeline. A guy that's very good, but maybe a guy that not a ton of people know about yet. I think I saw Fraser Clark was wearing some of your gear as well. So how do you go about differentiating the clientele that you kind of look to say, you know what, I could see you wearing my brand, or is it vice versa that they reach out to you?
It's a common. I mean, both of those guys, right? So first of all, Joey Spencer, him and Mikel, they've been with BOXRAW since day one, since before we even launched. In fact, I think the first photo shoot we ever did with BOXRAW was with Joey and Mikel. So
Hmm.
we've got them forever, for life, regardless, win or lose where they get to in boxing. So that's us, right? Fraser Clark, same sort of thing. Within probably 6 months, I went over to Team GB and met all those guys. They didn't have a clue who BOXRAW was, right? But we just launched, we were nobody, But again, they all embraced me. So it's about in those specific cases that we take care of our own, right? If you've been there from the start, like I don't want anyone to ever like say, oh, okay, they used us at one point and then at a later point forgot about us. And it's been difficult, right? Because as the company's got bigger, some of these guys who were with me have been forgotten about by other members of the team. But it's like we have to just remember that, remind them, like if they've been there, they're forever taken care of. This isn't just about business and whether or not they can add exposure or reach to our own profile. It's about doing what's right.
Hmm.
I don't want anyone in boxing to ever say, he wasn't a good guy. He didn't walk with integrity, didn't do business dealings, with any ethics. But on the other side of that, picking smaller guys, I suppose it's a combination, right? If they can bring people into the sport of boxing, we're interested. So if this is a young guy up and coming, we think, okay, he creates great content, he's got a lot of talent, he could bring more people into the sport of boxing, we're down. So there isn't like a set criteria other than can they help serve our vision to be the reason why the world got into boxing?
I noticed that, and we talked about this last time too. And so maybe this talks about the growth of BOXRAW as well. We were talking about, okay, you're doing training apparel, but what about training equipment? So I don't think even at that time you had gotten all this line out of training equipment. Now you've got hand wraps. I've got your hand wraps. I've got the knuckle guards. I know you've been developing a boxing glove for a long time under development. How close to being where you want to be, would you say, in that element are you with the company, or how much more do you see that growing out?
So hand wraps we had like I think a year into launch, we launched hand wraps, but knuckle guards obviously launched in the last probably 9 months.
Hmm.
But that took about a year and a half to develop. Gloves, as you said, 4.5 years. I think the key thing to note is that we're never going to be done, right? And it's
Hmm.
part of our internal value statements, right? Is that we're never finished.
Hmm.
So while we spent over 4.5 years now developing the boxing glove, once that releases, it's then going to be how do we improve on that? And I think
Hmm.
this is the problem with a lot of brands within boxing up to this point is that they think they've got a golden formula and that's it. But can you imagine if we use that same logic for tables, for laptops, for mobile phones, for automobiles? Everything needs to improve.
Hmm.
Just to think that at one moment in time you've nailed it is just completely delusional. So I don't think we'll ever get to that point. However, I do know when we launch this next round of, or our first round of boxing gloves, head guards, groin guards, boxing bags, we're
Hmm.
going to own the market. Like they are completely above and beyond anything else available in the market. We spent so much time because we want to make sure we're not just like slightly bigger. We are exponentially better than what else is out there.
And I again, you're talking about products. I didn't even think about that necessarily. Just the simple things like you just said, like something as simple as a bag, but again, that's part of what you load your gear into and things of that nature. I got to ask about it. Are we going to see boxing footwear? Are we going to see slides? How is that where we're venturing as well?
100%, man. We started working on footwear about 6 months ago. I imagine it's going to take about another year to a year and a half, maybe to come to fruition. But we're working on it. I think the reason why things take so long is just because we're very. I mean, you've got the hand wraps right. They look like basic hand wraps, but if you look at the fabric, no one else has got that fabric out there. You
Hmm.
know, and yeah, we were the first in that. No one was doing these rubberized straps. No one was printing the names on the tape. Now everyone's doing it. And it's gonna be the same thing with the boxing boot. We're gonna get competitors and who try and copy what we're doing. But with boxing boots, it's a little bit trickier because I mean, first of all, the mold costs. Like we're not just like taking a standard mold like most brands do, and then just stick the logo on it. Like, this is completely, we're doing a lot of testing to get it right. And I think the difference with testing footwear compared to testing a t-shirt you can test in a month, right? You wear the t-shirt, wash it every week, wear it again, you know, that's a decent testing. Footwear takes, people recognize quality of footwear after a year of wearing them, you know, so that needs to be taken into account as well. We don't want to launch footwear that looks great. The first few sessions we trained in, they worked great. I want, when you buy our footwear, you know, you can own that for, you know, a solid 2-3 years, depending on how you treat them. You know, it's not just going to be something that falls apart after, you know, a few months.
No doubt. And I would expect it, based on what I've consumed so far from your brand, that it's going to be something spectacular. And of course, I'll probably end up buying that too. As far as current collaborations that you have going, I saw that you have the one with Teddy Atlas right now is one of the new ones that I've seen dropping. Maybe talk about how that kind of came into fruition, because that's a little bit different than just having a collaboration with a fighter, having someone that's this mythic trainer that's been through so much of boxing history. How did that come together?
Yeah, so I met Teddy about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. It was the day after Lomachenko fight. So me, Loma, Usyk, and some of the team went over to Teddy's for like a Christmas dinner sort of thing. It was Teddy's family were there, and we just connected, you know. I mean, you know, we got on very well. I was talking to him about a charity, you know, and he was really empathetic about the whole thing. And then we stayed in contact and just, you know, we kind of became friends. And then we were teasing the idea of this collab. And he mentioned to me that he, you know, he's got this concept of 36, and he explained to me what it was about. And, you know, this philosophy for life, that you can put everything into something, work towards it, and then, you know, penultimately you get 36 minutes to make life fair. You know, 12 3-minute rounds in boxing. Actually, it's such a powerful thing. And then at the same time, I was trying to ideate around how we can release a range with a set of numbers on the back, you know, like a basketball cell, American football, soccer, and so on. And I could never really find numbers that meant anything. It was just like a guess, you know. And I even got to the point where I had one range which just had an X on it. So it was like, there's no number, we just gonna put an X, that'll be our thing. And then he came up with 36. I was like, this is game changing, man. And it, you know, it's less about the fashion of it and more about what it represents. So yes, you know, it may seem it's different for typical boxers, but at the same time, the collaborations we've got planned, we're pushing the boat out, you know, and we're shifting the narrative away from just the physicality of the sport and more around the mindset, you know, and that if you have a mind, you're a fighter. So we're looking for these people that embody that attitude toward life, you know, and Teddy's perfectly done.
Are there any ongoing or future collaborations that you have that you can announce, or what are the ones that are ongoing, or the ones that are continuing?
We've got a great one with Tank at the moment. We're working on something new for V2. I can't talk too much about the other ones we've got, but you know, there's a few more boxers in the pipeline internationally, you know, in different countries, not necessarily just in the US. We're pushing the boat out again, back to that point about the attitude toward life, so people that have fought for something in their life and represent the brand. Also a few other fashion houses and other, you know, clothing brands are in the pipeline. These aren't in the next 6 months, 12 months. These are, you know, we're talking 12 months from now at least. But we've got a lot planned.
It doesn't surprise me, just considering how much has happened in 9 months. I can only imagine what's going to happen in 12 months from now. So, Ben, thank you so much for taking your time and talking to me. And I look forward to seeing BOXRAW evolve and grow.
Anytime, man. Thank you for having me on, and I appreciate the kind words of support.
Look for what they're dropping. I want to see some slides. I don't know. I love slides. So I want to get some BOXRAW slides. I'm telling you, Ben, when those come out, I will be one of the first people to hit order. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing what they're doing. Fast risers, great brand. I think they're going big places. So sit back and relax and watch out for them. Next guest, I have got Ty Short Fuse Tomlin on in just a bit. Ty is a super lightweight from Chatham County, same area as Caleb Plant. Actually knows Caleb Plant, was actually trained for a while by Caleb Plant's father, Richie. So he's 11-0, 7 KOs, got spotted by Lou DiBella. Lou DiBella signed him. Now he's just putting fights together. And I mean, I want to say he fought like 5 times in 2020. He's already fought 1, 2, 3 times in 2021. Getting ready to fight a 4th time on August 28th. He is a workhorse, super nice guy, super talented, a name that should be on your radar. Let's hear from him. Here's Short Fuse, Ty Tomlin.
I'm here with undefeated fighter Ty Tomlin. Ty, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
Now, I got to ask you, before I get into the interview, you got a really cool room there, the background, the guitars. Tell me a little bit about what you got going on back there.
Yeah, this is a media company that we work with a lot. They do a lot of my video work. They do all of my T-shirts. They're called Shop Media. And we've got a little studio set up for podcasts and stuff. Normally, we're on our camera. With a couple technical difficulties today, we're on the phone here, but still got the awesome setup.
No, I love it. It's very cool. I've been reading about you a little bit here, hearing about your story, reading some of the press releases. How did you get into boxing? How did you find the sport, or did the sport find you?
I would say the sport kind of found me a little bit, just watching it on TV, everything else, you're interested in it. So I just started going to a gym here in town and kind of fell in love with it. I was just 9 or 10 years old. Then I got into the amateur, started having my amateur fights, working my way up into the national rankings. I was ranked in the top 5 in about 3 different weight classes as an amateur. So I did that all the way up until the point I was 17. Then took a little bit of a break from boxing for about 6 months there. And that's when I started training to go pro. Then I had my pro debut when I turned 19. So May of 2019.
So with your family, were you guys always a family that enjoyed boxing, even going to your father, Daryl?
Yeah, of course. When we originally started, I was actually with Richie Plant, Caleb Plant's father. So that's who I started with in our first gym. It was awesome, of course, both of us coming from the same town, working in the same gym when we were young, to see what we've done now. But my brother started a week after I did. When we were both amateurs, I always used to tease me about that, like, oh, I've been in the sport longer, right? Just because I started a couple weeks earlier there. But my dad started coaching us probably 2 years into our career, because the first gym closed down. They went to a second gym with another great coach named Chris Beasley. And then another one, his name was Fred Dulay, up in Hendersonville. And we originally thought, we were just going to have somebody else coaching us all the time. But my father kind of took the reins and trained me and my brother for a long time. I actually had about 30 different people in class at one point. So we had a whole gym. But now it's just me. I'm the only one. We're focusing on my pro career and seeing where we can take it.
So kind of explain to me, how did you find Richie Plant? How did you get connected with him originally?
Yeah, it originally wasn't, like looking for Richie Plant. We just went to the first boxing gym in town, and we were lucky enough to find Richie, Great guy. Obviously, Caleb's a great guy too. I actually got to reconnect with Richie not too long ago. I was sparring with Austin Dulay up in Hendersonville, and he was in camp, and got to reconnect with him, got to do some sparring over there. So that was a good experience as well.
Was it to where like Plant was kind of like a mentor throughout your growth throughout the amateur and into the pro level?
Yeah, definitely in the beginning, seeing him, and he was doing more boxing, kickboxing then. But being a young kid, just getting into the sport, it was always cool to watch those older guys who are already winning some of those amateur titles and stuff. So I definitely looked up to him, and we always take everything we can get from everybody. We have no egos on Team Short Fuse. So I'm going to Vegas here in a couple of weeks, and whoever we get in there with, if it works, we're going to use it. We're not stuck in our style or anything like that. So it's definitely something, watching those older guys inspired me when I was younger, and obviously helped me grow as a fighter.
I asked a lot of fighters this question, and I'm always surprised by how a lot of them do remember a certain moment. But was there one moment where you're like, all right, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? I know it. This is my path.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was one specific moment. I know when I had mentioned I took that break from boxing for a little bit. And I think taking that break is what really pushed me over the, like, I'd been doing it for 6-7 years at that point. Obviously, I loved the sport, knew it was going to be my life for a long time, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life just yet. And the reason I took that break is because I had a little bit of a knee injury, almost tore my ACL, almost broke the outside bone on my leg. And when I was just sitting there rehabbing and everything else, that was the first thought that popped in my head when I hurt myself was, oh my gosh, like when am I gonna be able to fight again? And I think that is when I was like, well, I think I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. I don't think I'm going anywhere. Then obviously having my first pro fight and seeing that you're able to do that, seeing what you bring to the table, just continues to push that confidence through the roof, and you realize it's going to stick with you for a long time.
I find that a lot of times when I hear about fighters taking a break, either as amateurs, even before they're pros, or even when they're pros, that they kind of need at times that break just to kind of have like a body reset, that, you know, you're throwing these punches in the gym 24/7, you know, your body can only take so much, and it kind of, you know, allows a little bit of decompression time. Would you find that it kind of rejuvenated you that time away from the sport for a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Not so much even physically, it's more mentally. You know, your boxing's a tough sport on the body, of course, but even on your mind. You're in the gym every single day, working your butt off. And boxing's a lonely sport too, especially with me. I'm the only pro in my gym, me and my father. So you don't have anybody necessarily to push you through those moments when things get a little hard, you know. So you're in there there's only so many punches you can throw, right? You're in there throwing 100 left hooks, and you mentally just get a little burnt out on things, especially when you're younger. You got so many things pulling you away from it. But as long as you can make it over that hump and get to the next level, it kind of just goes away, right? And taking that break for a second kind of made me realize that. It rejuvenated me mentally. And when I got back in the gym, I hit it 110% just hard.
I find that with a lot of up and coming boxers, that many times the hardest part of their career is the early part of the career, when maybe people don't know them a whole lot, or they haven't gotten a big contract or found that big promoter. You know, did you ever question, like, man, when's my chance going to come? When's a big promoter going to notice me? Or did you ever have any doubts about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially those first couple fights, because most people, some amateur boxers like I was coming from, you see boxing and you just see it on TV, right? You're seeing all the big fights and you're wondering when you're going to get that opportunity. And obviously there's a learning curve there, because that's not normally what you get right out of the gate, right? So I had my first couple of fights, and I was fortunate enough to get on a big card as early as my fifth fight. A lot of fighters can't say that. My fifth fight, I was fighting in Bridgestone Arena on the undercard of a world title fight with Caleb Plant and Vincent Feigenboots. So that was a really cool experience and kind of my first big one. And then that's when COVID-19 came around and put a lot of people on the back burner for a while. So I had another 4 to 6 month period where I wasn't fighting a whole lot. And then I got my opportunity to fight in Biloxi, Mississippi. And as soon as we got those opportunities to start fighting again, we just ran with them. That's why we've been so busy over the past year or so. And we continue to take those opportunities.
I was going to say, because I know that when COVID hits, right, you know, I think it was March 13th, right around there's kind of like nationally when everything started to shut down. You know, there was that real dead period for a few months, but once we started to open back up a little bit, I mean, you really ran with it. I think you fought like 5 times in 2020.
A lot.
Was it just kind of like, hey, you know, give me an opportunity and I'm ready to go?
Yeah, you know, when we had that off time, I wasn't taking a break. I was in the gym, I was working on things. So as soon as everything started to open back up a little bit, I took every opportunity because I was ready for them. And as fighters, I think that's a good piece of advice, is always be ready, because you never know when those shots are going to come. If I wasn't ready for those opportunities, it wouldn't have led to me signing to DiBella. It wouldn't have led to me doing all the big things that I'm doing right now with my fight coming up on August 28th. So you just have to stay ready at all times. And when you get those opportunities, you got to take them and run with them.
And I'm assuming, you know, you're staying busy, you're winning fights. You have connections already. You're appearing on some fairly big cards, like you said, with the Feigenboots fight. I'm assuming that you're starting to field offers from different promoters. How did Lou DiBella come into the picture, and what made you decide to go with Lou?
Yeah, Lou's somebody that has been around for a long time, all the way dating back to the HBO boxing stuff that isn't around anymore. But he's had so many champions, so many great fighters under his belt. And, you know, when we were looking at promoters, he's somebody that reached out to us right before my 10th fight. I remember that. I tell that story a lot. He called me. I was literally in the hotel room, and got done weighing in. He's like, just go in, win the fight tomorrow. I'm going to give you a phone call. And I was just like, say less, right? So I went in there and I handled business, got the knockout in the first round. And that's when we started getting in touch and figuring out contract stuff. But he's just somebody that we think is going to move us at the right speed. You see a lot of these fighters rushed, or you see some of them babied. Like, we're kind of right there in the middle. We fight tough competition. We're slowly working our way up, climbing that, ladder that boxing is. And DiBella understands that. He understands where we are in the sport of boxing, at what speed we want to move. So that was just a match made right there.
Now, I know that you're originally from Cheatham County, same as Caleb Plant. There's that connection. Obviously, you go to a gym, find his father there. But the Nashville area at large, I mean, it's a pretty up and coming boxing city. I mean, I hear a lot of boxers coming out from there. You already mentioned Austin Delay, someone that you're close with, that you've worked with. Is it kind of like an untapped gem of resources for boxing in Nashville area?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. There's a lot of up and coming amateur guys, that are going to find their way into the pros here soon. But more than anything, just the entertainment industry around here. There's so many different opportunities to have boxing in Nashville, bring big fights to Nashville. And that's what me and DiBella want to do. We've had a lot of talks about that. I've got a huge fan base here in Tennessee, and I want to bring those fights to Nashville, to Cheatham County, just a general area for them. And this next one I'm having up at Oak Grove. It's only about a 40-minute drive, brand new casino up there. So kind of same thing there.
Speaking about that fight, that's August 28th, correct?
Yes, August 28th.
Still waiting on an officially named opponent, or do you have an idea of who you're going to be fighting?
Yeah, it took a little while to get the exact fight date down. So it's been taking a little while to get opponents in. Obviously, the matchmakers are strong at it. We're kind of waiting to hear. I love to hear early so I can go in, get film on these guys, really pick them apart, but still waiting to hear on an opponent.
When I know a lot of fighters, especially when they're kind of, even when they're starting to establish themselves, they find a lot of benefit sparring other guys that have either maybe are a little bit ahead of them in terms of their careers or rankings or whatnot. I know that you've done some work with Austin Delay. I know that you've been around Caleb Plant. Have you had any other sparring experiences that you felt have helped progress you in your game?
Oh yeah, definitely. I flew out to Houston not too long ago to work at Bobby Benton's gym, and you had Shaquille Foster out there. You had Austin Trout out there, just some other high-level pros that were kind of in the same spot as I was. At the time, I think I was 8-0, 9-0, and they were at the same spot as I was. So just working with all those guys for a couple of days, I felt like it really bumped me up a level. And then actually next week on August 3rd, I leave out for Vegas. Mario's going to take care of us out there. We're going to fly out there, do some sparring. Super excited about that. Just that out there is the pinnacle of boxing. I swear there's so many guys out there to work with. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, obviously Vegas is the fight town. There's a lot more, what I've noticed, pros going to the Vegas area because it's like, well, why do I have to fly or move somewhere? My fight's probably going to be here anyway. I might as well just stay here. Have they talked to you about any people that you might be working with or different gyms you might be working at?
Yeah, he's sent all kinds of different gyms we're going to be going to, but I haven't heard any exact names on who we're going to be sparring just yet. Obviously, I'll make sure to take lots of pictures, keep everybody posted on social media, show everybody we're getting some good work in. But no names just yet. But I'm going to try to hit every gym possible, get as much work in as I can, just so when I do fight on August 23rd, I'll be ready to go. I know that as the fighters continue to progress, you love the Nashville area, you love your home city, but as things progress, some things change. I know Caleb Plant kind of found his home in Las Vegas. Could you see that, like, hey, if I like it out there, maybe I end up staying and making a life out there? Yeah, that's definitely always an option. I do love it around here. These are my people here. But if my career is going to do better out there and I have to move out there, that's definitely something I'm going to do. Whatever it takes to make it in this sport, I'm going to do. But hopefully I can stay here. If I have to travel out there for a training camp, hopefully that's no big deal. I know we're going to do it this time, see how we like it. I'm sure I'm going to love it out there. But the plans are right now to stay here and maybe do some training camps out in Vegas soon. I have to ask you this one because I know there's been a lot of drama with talks between Canelo and Caleb Plant. that was the fight everyone wanted. Then there's reports yesterday or 2 days ago from Mike Coppinger saying talks are mostly dead. When you first hear him possibly fighting Canelo, are you thinking like, man, it would be really fun to be on the undercard of that one? Oh gosh, yeah. Put me on that undercard all day. Please put me on that undercard. But hopefully they can figure something out. I know everybody's saying talks are 100% dead, but you know, Canelo's a different animal. But I'd be super excited for Caleb to get in there and show what all he's about. Caleb's so mentally strong that I don't think he's going to be intimidated by Canelo as much as some of these other guys are. So that's a fight I would love to see. Hopefully they can get something together. And if not, hopefully he can fight towards the winner sometimes in those winners' months.
Something that outside of boxing that I've really liked reading up on you is your campaign against drugs. You've been doing a lot of stuff locally, talking to kids in school, doing ride-alongs with the police force. What kind of inspired that with you? What made you say, hey, you know what, this is something that I want to actively help in this area?
Yeah, so I actually had in my family, one of my close cousins growing up with, he overdosed and sadly passed away not too long ago. And when that happened, yeah, thank you. And when that happened, it really opened my eyes to what all was going on because, you know, we'd be at family events and see each other and everything was good. And, you know, we knew he was dealing with addiction, but, you know, just meeting and talking to him, you would never tell. So it's not always bad people that are affected by these things. And I'm going to use my platform in whatever way I can to positively impact the kids around here. You know, a lot of these kids look up to me. So any way I can speak to them, maybe get through to them, some of the things that I've seen, you know, doing these ride-alongs with the police and everything else, if I can use my platform to speak to them and even help one person, it's worth every bit of it. So that's kind of what inspired it. And hopefully next year, COVID-19, well, I know it's slightly coming back with the variant and everything, but as long as that chills out a little bit, I'll be able to get into the schools more, speak to the students. So hopefully all that works out soon.
Now, I know that the drug problem nationally has been something that's increasingly become a problem. It's something that's not going away. In your area, is it something other than obviously the tragic loss of your family member? Is it something that you've seen as a whole within your community get worse over the years?
Oh, definitely. You know, we're in a great area full of amazing people. I continue to say that, but there is a bit of a drug problem around here. You know, it's people you would never realize either. You know, it's prominent people within the community. It's athletes. And that's what I'm saying. That you would never understand that it does affect literally everybody. It doesn't affect just social class. It doesn't affect anything like that. And that's what I'm trying to get to everybody and speak to them about and just help spread awareness with it.
Well, Ty, I think you're doing great things in and out of the ring. It's been a pleasure talking to you and getting to talk to you for the first time. Hopefully we'll get to talk again when you're 12-0 with 8 KOs.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. I hope so too, man. Thank you.
Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Check him out. Keep him on your radar. I think he's going to go places. He's going out to Vegas. He's going to keep extending that. And he's young. He's young. He's only 21 years old. So many young boxers, just like Joey Spencer that I had on last week, 21 years old. I'm telling you, I'm trying to bring you the names that you're going to see in the future. So best of luck to Ty. Hope good things happen for him on August 28th and that we see him maybe 1 or 2 times before 2021 is over. Considering how much work he likes to get in, I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like he's always in shape. So keep Ty Tomlin on your radar. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Upcoming, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that Fox card now that Cody Crowley's out. We're still waiting on a replacement for that one, but there is going to be a Fox card. Other good shows. You have a Matchroom Fight Camp show featuring Kid Galahad versus Jazza Dickens. That's going to be an interesting one for the vacant IBF featherweight title. That's coming up. That's on August 7th. August. Oh my gosh. It's August. How did we get to August? Anyway, that fight's coming up. On top of that, we've got Mick Conlan versus TJ Dehenny on Friday. I believe that's on ESPN+. So Friday and Saturday, our friend Mick Conlan in action, TJ Dehenny. That's a tough bout. Mick Conlan is one tough dude. I'm sure at some point we'll have him on. Love talking to Mick. Best of luck to Mick Conlan. Check out that fight Friday. That's on ESPN+. Kid Galahad, Jazza Dickens on the Zone, Matchroom Fight Camp. And then you've got the Fox card. We'll see who the replacement is for Cody Crowley. That's all I got. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, check me out on my socials, all that good stuff. And make sure to leave me some comments, leave me a review on iTunes, all that good stuff. That's all I got. I'll see you next time.